All right, so I was trying to make this into 2 parts, but that last question, that just took some extra time. So hopefully you paused the video and you really tried those out. So let's continue on. That was probably the hardest question we were going to have for the period, but we want to get finished. I got about 3 more pages of examples to do. There are only 2 on each page, so we're okay. All right, so this one, we're going to read the directions. It says, state the number of complex roots of each equation. We want to find the roots, and then we want to graph the related function. So there's 3 parts to this question: the number of roots, actually finding the roots, and then graphing the function. So in question number 1, we have 1 root because the degree is 1. Okay, and notice complex means we can't just stop and say there's no real solution. We have to go and find the complex solutions. So the degree of my function is 1, so there is going to be 1 complex root. And remember, complex includes real and imaginary numbers and their combination. All right, and so then it says find the root. So if I solve, I get 3x is equal to 5, which makes x equal to 5/3. So my root is at x is equal to 5/3. So notice that would be the point 5/3, comma 0. So we'll see if that happens on the graph. Then the last thing says graph the related function. So what we're going to do to graph it is, instead of putting 0 here, we're going to put y. So we're going to say y is equal to 3x minus 5. So I have an intercept at -5. All right, I had somebody meet me in a meet. So we've got an intercept at -5. I think that's -5. And then a slope of 3. So we're going to go up 3 and to the right 1. And so when I graph that, I get this line. All right, and notice 5/3, if I divided that, that's 1 2/3. And do you see that that's a little bit more than halfway on the x-axis? So it looks like I guessed or I shouldn't say guessed, that I found the correct complex root. So take a moment with question number 8, and we're going to pause the video and see if you can figure out the number of complex roots, the actual roots, and then graph it to see what that means. So we have a degree of 2 in this function, so that means that I have 2 complex roots. Okay, so if I go to solve this equation, that means I have x squared is equal to -4. And so if I take the square root of both sides, plus or minus, do you see that this is really saying that we have x is equal to plus or minus, and I've got the square root of 4 times the square root of -1. So the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of -1 is I. So these are going to be my complex roots, and I can't call that 2i comma 0 because there's no such thing as 2i on this plane. It's not real. So if we take a look at this, if I change the 0 into a y, we're looking at y is equal to x squared plus 4. So my parent graph is a parabola, y equals x squared, translated up 4 units. So you want to be real careful because they're counting by 1s on the x-axis, but they're counting by 4 along the y-axis. So we need to be actually by 2, sorry, 2, 4, 6, 8. They're counting by 2s. So if we go to the right 1, 1 squared is up 1. But again, my vertical is counting by 2s. To the right 2 is up 4. So to the right 2, I'd go up to the point of 8. To the right 3 would be up 9. And so I'm going to go up 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, right? And so then I get the same points on the other side. And so my graph looks something like this. And you'll see that we never actually cross the x-axis. So that's why we have no real solutions. We only have 2 imaginary solutions. So I have 2 complex roots. They just don't happen to be real. All right, so I'm going to have you pause the video. On number 9, it's okay to change those to x's if the c's make you uncomfortable. And then so go ahead and see if you can solve that and graph it and tell me the answers to the question. All right, in order to solve this, I want to probably, you could use quadratic formula, but that gets a little deep. We're going to just go ahead and try to factor this. So we would say what multiplies to give me the last number that adds to give me the middle number. So what's multiplying to give me positive 1 that adds to give me positive 2? So 1 times 1 is equal to 1, and 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So we could call this x plus 1 times x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now, if we wanted to be fancy, we could say x plus 1 squared is equal to 0. Okay? So that means that with the degree of 2, I should have 2 complex roots. Okay? But do you see that because it's a square, I really only get x plus 1 equal to 0. Sorry, I'm messing up right there. And we get x equal to negative 1. And so this is my root, but it's my root twice. Okay? So because we had that number squared, it's negative 1 and negative 1 are the 2 complex roots. We just don't write them twice. Okay? So when I come over here, I'm going to change this 0 into y. So remember, this is translating my graph to the left 1 unit. And then my parent graph is the y equals x squared. So to the right 2 is going to be up 4. To the left 1 is up 1. And to the left 2 is up 2. So do you see that we bounced right there? And anytime we bounce like that, that means that there's more than one root at that spot. So even though I only hit one time, I hit one time because negative 1 is the root twice. All right, so take a look at number 10. See how you can factor that and see if you could come up with all the solutions. So the degree of my polynomial is 3. So that means that I have 3 complex roots. Okay, so when I start factoring, I notice they all have x's. So if I factor out the x, I'm left with x squared plus 2x minus 15 equal to 0. So then if I do my big X, I'm asking what multiplies give me negative 15 that adds to give me positive 2. So I could say 5 and 3 give me positive 15, so I want it to be negative, so one of them needs to be negative. And since 2 is positive, my biggest one will be positive and my smallest one will be negative. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15, and 5 plus negative 3 is positive 2. So this is going to be x times x plus 5 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. So because it's equal to 0, that means x is equal to 0, or x plus 5 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. So I have a root at 0, I have a root at negative 5, and I have a root at positive 3. Okay, now this isn't something that we've been trained how to graph. So I've got an x-intercept at 0, an x-intercept at negative 5, and I have an x-intercept at positive 3. And then I need to figure out what happens in between. So maybe about halfway in between, like at negative 2, I can do an xy chart because I don't have a parent graph for this. I can test a point like positive 2, and then I can test some points outside. Or just for the sake of time, we could go ahead and do Desmos. All right, and so if we plug in x to the power of 3, and then we have plus 2x, and then we have minus 15x, we get this graph here. So if I zoom out a little bit, I notice at a little bit about 2, I'm at 18. So, I'm sorry, negative 2 is about at 18. And then at positive 2, we're down at negative 18. And so the graph looks something like this. And I know you can't see it, so I will show you. And so I know that my graph doesn't look anything like their graph, but that's because they still counted by 1s on the x-axis, but they counted by 10s along the y-axis. So it looks a little flat because of that change. Okay? So then another type of question that you're going to see on the homework is to find all of the zeros of a function. That's not a typical function. Now, if I try to add 81 to both sides and I take the fourth root, I'm not going to get all my solutions. So we want to actually factor these. So think of this as x to the fourth is x squared to the second power, and 81 is 9 to the second power. Now I have an a squared minus b squared situation. So I can say that that's a plus b times a minus b. Now notice this one is not an a minus b, but a squared minus b squared, but this one is. So I'm going to do that one more time, and this is going to be x squared minus 3 squared. And so I get x squared plus 9 times, and I get x plus 3 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. So that means if I set x squared plus 9 equal to 0, that makes x squared equal to negative 9. And when I take the square root of both sides, I get plus or minus 3i, because the square root of 9 is 3 and the square root of negative 1 is I. Over here, I get x plus 3 equal to 0, which makes x equal to negative 3. And over here, I get x minus 3 equal to 0, which makes x equal to positive 3. All right, so along that same kind of line, this kind of looks like a quadratic equation, except my powers are doubled. So I'm going to call this x squared squared, and this is going to be x squared to the first. And then we can use a big X, because I really have this quadratic formula, like something squared minus 13 times something plus 36. So we're going to ask ourselves what multiplies to give us 36 that adds to give us negative 13. So a positive here and a negative down here means they both have to be negative. So hopefully you see that it's negative 9 and negative 4. But when I factor, instead of saying x minus 9 and x minus 4, remember we said double that exponent, so it's going to be x squared minus 9 and x squared minus 4. So this is going to be x squared minus 3 squared times x squared minus 2 squared is equal to 0. So that's going to give me x plus 3 times x minus 3 and x plus 2 times x minus 2. So I've got roots. The first one is going to give me a root at negative 3. The second one is going to give me a root at positive 3. The third one gives me a root at negative 2. And the last one gives me a root at positive 2. And so if you're wondering how I'm getting those numbers, I'm setting each one of these equal to 0 and solving for x. So hopefully that is all the information that you need to know in order to do section 4-1.